Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Republican in the family, and Maria Shriver were getting married. The Kennedys had wedding weeks. They didn't just have a wedding, they had a wedding week, so there was events all week long. And Jacqueline and Caroline were hosting a luncheon for Arnold and Maria at the president's house. And it started out to be a light luncheon, and that's the way she wanted to do it. It started out with fish chowder, and then it got switched to corn chowder. And Caroline had these mugs made up that said Arnold and Maria Chowderheads, and there's a picture of the mug in the book there. It was kind of a joke they had in the compound. They liked chowder so much of all kinds. They decided to have these mugs made up, and we had a pasta dish that was for lunch. It was similar to a tetrazzini that was done with chicken instead of turkey. And we had, of course, the Kennedys loved chocolate chip cookies and brownies. And at all the luncheons, there's always chocolate chip cookies and brownies around. So I did this big, huge silver platter that was probably about almost the size of that table. And it was filled up with brownies and chocolate chip cookies. And I did an American Eagle out of chocolate, pretty much life-size, which was the centerpiece in the center of the platter that was kind of in honor of Arnold, becoming an American citizen and marrying into a political family. So Jackie thought that was a great idea, so that's what I did. So after the luncheon was winding down, I walked back out into the dining room, and I was looking around, make sure everything was picked up. And I looked over, and I saw Oprah Winfrey standing there, and she was looking around. There was no cookies and brownies, so she started looking at the Eagle, and then she started snapping these feathers off the size of Hershey bars. And this was in 1986, right around the time of the color purple, so it was pre-diet for Oprah at that time. So, but everybody kind of did the same thing right after she started it, and pretty soon that Eagle looked like a plucked chicken. So that was the end of that. Another story that I don't think this one is in the book. It was Pierre Salinger, who used to be the press secretary to the president, and he would come to the compound periodically and fly in from France. And this one time he came in with his wife, and we had dinner planned. And after dinner, the senator had tickets to Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I know most of you will remember Peter, Paul, and Mary. I talked to one group at a school, and they looked at me. They didn't know who Peter, Paul, and Mary was, but in our age group, we remember them. And they were playing at the Melody Tent up in Hyannis, and the senator had some extra tickets, and he said, Neil, after dinner, if you want to go up, here's a couple of tickets. And I said, well, thank you. I think I will, because I like Peter, Paul, and Mary. So he was going up there with Pierre and Pierre's wife, and after the concert was kind of over, I was heading out to my truck in the parking lot, and I hear the senator behind me yelling, Neil, wait a minute. He was very impatient, and the driver wasn't there, so he said, Neil, give us a ride back to the compound. I said, sure, no problem, but I only have one seat it was this van I had, and I was working on my house, and I had 2x4s and bags of cement in the back of it, and I said, he said, well, Pierre won't mind, he can sit on the cement bag. So they get in the back of the van, and they're sitting there, and I'm driving back, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw Pierre sitting there on the cement, and he's got cement dust all over him. And I said, nobody would ever believe this, that the press secretary to the president was sitting on a bag of cement getting a ride back to the compound. Peter, Paul, and Mary came over afterwards as well, and I ended up staying there till about 2 o'clock in the morning, cooking shrimp and making different things for them to eat. I loved the business, had a passion for food, and it's been my life ever since. And we have a restaurant right down here in Orlando. I moved down here because my son, we have one child, and he went to Rollins College, graduated from Rollins, ended up getting married to a girl he met at Rollins, and she was from upstate New York. And we were living on Cape Cod, and we still have a home up there, but it was just the winters were too long and too cold, and all of a sudden I had 2 little granddaughters appear out of the blue, so that was the pull that brought me down to Florida, and we opened this restaurant called Doc's right downtown here. So if you come in there, you can get some of the things. The clam chowder and the lobster stew that was a Kennedy favorite is on the menu down there. So, but over the years that I worked there, the thing that I bring with me from that experience is how close the family was, and in bad times and in good times. The press, unfortunately, blow things out of proportions many times. Because I was there, I lived the experience, and when you hear these, some of these things that happened, some of these things that occurred, they just weren't, true. So, some things did happen, but on the whole, they were a great family, very close, very caring. I'll tell you one story about Senator Kennedy, which a lot of people don't know, and this was during Desert Storm. I picked him up at the airport, and he handed me this address. He says, "Neil, you know where this street is?" I says, "Yeah." So we drove over to this house, and he said, "I'll be out in a little bit." And he went in the house and to talk to these people who just lost a son in Desert Storm. Never said anything and didn't want anybody to know that he did things like that, but he was very caring. He knew what pain was, and he wanted to, kind of share that with them with their loss of their son. And that's the side, that I remember about the senators, so over the years he was very caring and a wonderful person to me, and the family was as well. Well, the life of a chef, you don't have regular hours. It's in the restaurants and hotels, it's 80, 90 hours a week, and I've done that my whole life. When I worked for the Kennedys, I would go in and do breakfast in the morning. I'd get there about 6 o'clock and get things ready and start working on the boat lunches in the summer months. They would usually go out in the boat. Then there would be sisters, the senator's sisters, Jean Smith, Mrs. Lawford, Mrs. Shriver would come in to have lunch in the house with Rose. Then I'd be getting ready for dinner in the evening. I'd probably get out of there at about 11 o'clock at night, usually. So yeah, they were long days, and I would go, on 30-day stretches without taking a day off because the family was in. Now, when the family left, it was, a week or two, and then I'd sneak and jump on a plane and come down here and see my son, watch him play baseball here at Rollins College. But that was kind of the schedule. There was really no budget. Rose Kennedy's income to run the homes was $11 million a month, but that wasn't her budget. That was her income, I guess, that Joe Kennedy set up. There was no real budget ever set up. It was, what was going on, who was coming in, and there was that. And I can remember buying caviar in cans this big, that would be a small fortune today, but, you get a 4 or 5 pound can of beluga caviar, it would be quite expensive today. It's about $400 an ounce. So we did a fundraiser down in Hammersmith, where Jackie grew up in Newport, Rhode Island, and it was supposed to be 1,200 people coming to the event. And it was a cookout, and it was on the lawn, and they were selling tickets for the fundraiser for, I guess, a few weeks and whatever. But knowing the Kennedys, I always, I'm a hotel chef and I'm a restaurant chef, and we're always waiting for something to happen, so you're always prepared for some of that. So just when I was loading the trucks, I said, I'll throw, it was barbecue chicken and hamburgers, and we were having a clam bake later that night. I threw 12 extra cases of chicken on the truck, and I threw all these extra things. And I have still one good friend of mine who was a chef. Every time he brings it up, he gets angry because he just couldn't believe how many people showed up there. It was supposed to be 1,200, and we ended up doing over 2,000. And they were coming up over the hill, and he relates to it as kind of the Chinese were coming up over the hill. And he was like 3 hours cooking chickens on the grill, and he was burnt red from the charcoal. And but those type of things would happen, and I always say, I have a feeling, that when they say like in the evening 6 people and then 30 would show up, I always seem to be ready for that. As a chef, you need to be. It was a fun time for me, and the book is I'm getting good reviews across the country from the food writers, and I'm excited about that because I think I was only there 12 years, but it gives people a look at the family from behind the scenes that they never knew about, and it's a good look. So I hope you enjoy the book.